On March 4th, you're going to have your first research paper due. This is a 3-page research report, and the topic's going to be of your choosing. The first step for when you write a research paper is to figure out what you want to write about, which is probably the most difficult. I could tell you what to write about, but I think just the whole learning experience is more valuable if you can explore something that you have a personal interest to. And there's so much topics you could explore. If you haven't noticed already, that this Earth Science course is really a survey of our whole planet, and anything that you want to write about as far as it's in the physical or chemical aspects of our planet and how that functions, and the rocks and the geology and the Earth Science part, it's probably fair game. But I want you to run by your ideas with me before you start to dive into the research. I just want to make sure that you're on the right track and you're not wasting any time and you're focused on it. So the deadline for the paper is Tuesday, March 4th, but I had a deadline of this coming Tuesday, February 11th, for you to send me your paper topic, and also I want you to send me what your thesis is. And so it's going to take a little bit of research on your end to figure those things out. It's not an easy task. I had this video up last week, but there was some sort of video glitch, and I was hoping that you would be able to view this last weekend or sometime last week. But I didn't get around to re-recording it until just now. So if you need a few extra days to send me your ideas, send me your research paper topic and your research paper thesis, then that'll be fine. We still will have the March 4th deadline. That 3-page paper, also keep in mind that there's going to need to be at least 8 peer-reviewed references for this paper, and I'll go a little bit more into that. So the purpose of this video is just to show you how to access that information from home or wherever. Going through the D2L, we're going to go in and check out the library resources and see what we can figure out. So here we are on our home page. Yours might look a little bit different, but essentially the same. So I'm going to click up here on the top, Library, and brings me up a new window. And then I'm going to select Databases and Articles. At this point, you'll probably be given a login, but you're just going to use your Los Rios login, your D2L login to get you in. After you do that once, it'll remember you. It remembered me. For other classes you're in, you could refine this. I think the biggest net is just to start with Academic Search Complete. But you could also dive into, I think I found it down here. Oh, there we go. Science, Environmental Complete. That would probably be a good one. Any of these science ones would work. But I like to start with the most general first. So, and then I like to refine within the database. So I'm going to start Academic Search Complete. All right, well, let's say you've read through the first couple chapters and you have an idea. Remember that the topics for your topic for this paper is going to have to be something within the first unit. So Unit 1 contains chapters 1, 2, 3, and 4. So a lot of big topics in there. One of the topics is on minerals. So let's just say you're interested in gold. So you have no idea what you're going to do, what you're going to write about for gold, but you're just interested in gold. So it pops up some possibilities, but I'm just going to be general at first and see what it gives me. All right, gives me a lot. I've got 1 through 10 showing here out of 133,000 articles that I could get, going back to 1896 to as recent as this year. So I could narrow that down. I don't know. Let's bring it up to 1990, 1989. That's fine. All right, well, that changed it to 130,000, but it's giving me everything. It's giving me newspapers, 17,000 newspapers, magazines, book reviews, trade publications. So in the syllabus that you read, this has to be peer-reviewed articles that are going to be the references in your research paper. So for that reason, we're going to want to select the academic journals. Pretty much cuts it down in half. We've now got 77,000 articles, which is better, but you probably are not going to want to read through 77,000 articles. But let's just kind of glance through the titles and see if we can see anything that looks interesting. You can see that gold is used for a lot of different research. Some of it's in, this is the resource geology. Well, let's just say we want to go into gold. Well, gold dredging, how about that? Gives this as a possibility. Let's see what that'll do. We got 77,000. Oh, now we're down to 43, so that looks pretty good. So we can look into here, South African gold output. Looking at the titles here, Engineering and Mining Journal. Now this would be good. Anytime you see a title of a journal like that, probably peer-reviewed. Another hint is that it's got volumes, issues, and page numbers. Again, that's another big clue that we're looking at a peer-reviewed journal. So all of these look like they're peer-reviewed journal. This one down here, American History is the title of the journal. This one might be okay, but just looking at the title of that American History, it looks more of a historical paper. But remember, you're going to be wanting to write this more on the chemical, physical part of earth science rather than a social, biological, historical. So this paper right here might work. You might want to be able to, you probably could include that if the others were more in with, the science of it. So it's not a history paper, it's not a biology paper, it's really getting into the science of the concepts that we're going over in our textbook. So that could work too. Let's just go ahead and see what else we can find. Gold, its extraction on the environment. Australian Science Teachers Journal, so it could be a targeted. You can tell a little bit who it's written for. Here's one for the New York Times. It could be a very interesting article. A lot of the New York Times articles are excellent, but that doesn't qualify for a peer-reviewed journal article. And when I put in gold dredging, you notice that it reset this for all results. So I probably are going to have to click just the academic journals and see what we can find. Well, let's try something. We're thinking about Folsom and mining. How about we put gold mining? Let's see what we get. Wow, we've got 14,000. Let's narrow that down to the academic journals. So let's see what we can find here. Elevated rates of gold mining, effective methods. So you want to look through, you notice in the, if you watched the lecture videos, I talked about the mine tailings and the damage that gold mining does on the environment. So you might want to look for something that has, here's one about mercury contamination. And that's often associated with gold mining. So I'm going to type in mercury, gold mining and mercury. Down was at 9,000, now I'm at 600. So now this is a lot better. I'm going to narrow that down to just the academic journals and see what I can find. So here we've got a pretty good collection. Still, 500 articles are more than you're going to want to look at, but if you can just glance through the titles, the authors in these peer-reviewed journals are very careful to to title their articles appropriately so that people doing exactly what we're doing right now can locate or can get the essence of what they're looking for. So here's a Journal of Air and Waste Management Association. So this looks like a peer-reviewed journal. June 2013, volume 63, issue 6. It's got that format that we would expect for a peer-reviewed journal. Let's go ahead and take a look at this. All right, so this one might be good. This one could be a good one. Let's go back and see if we can find another one. Here's one that Mercury imports. This one's got a PDF. We can get right into it with a PDF, which is nice. Now you need at least 8 peer-reviewed journal articles. What I would do, if this was, let's say this is your topic, and if you find this topic interesting, you can use this topic. That's fine with me. But I would probably read through about, I don't know, at least 20 or 30 of these journal articles that kind of interest you. You'll get an idea of where the research or where the real issues are about gold mining and mercury. And then you'll probably begin to see some similarities and relationships between these articles, and you'll understand what the theme is. And a good step might be just to start to print these out, if you don't mind printing them out. If you want to save the paper and ink, then you can just email them to yourself and put them into a file. I like to read these articles on my iPad. That's kind of an easy way I do it, and I just highlight on my iPad, and then I don't have to waste the paper. Lots of different ways you can use it. But you just have to become acquainted with the information. You're going to be writing about this topic, so you have to first learn about the topic before you can write about it. So it's essential that you take that time. And this process of reading through these articles and crafting your thesis statement, that could take 5 hours or so, just becoming familiar with the research that's out there. And maybe you'll come down to 30 or 40 articles, and then after reading through them, you'll start to craft your research paper, and then you'll realize that I probably only need maybe only 15 or 20 of these. And then really when you start rolling up your sleeves and getting into it, you find that there's like 8 or 10 that you really like and that really do support your thesis. So one of your thesis statements could be evaluating the extent of environmental damage caused by mercury pollution in gold mining operations. So it's something specific. So when you send me that email saying I've got my topic, it's going to be on gold mining, and here's my thesis to evaluate the extent of the environmental damage caused by mercury pollution in gold mining operations, or something to that effect. So I know what you're going to be writing about. It's very clear. You're going to be looking at the pollution. You're going to be writing about how mercury is a pollutant in that process, and you're going to see the effects of that and the environmental damage done by mercury pollution in these mining operations. So it's very clear, and it looks like we've got about a couple hundred different research papers that are on that topic, so that would be a really good one. Sometimes you can get too specific. Let's say you were interested in gold mining, but gold mining in Folsom. Folsom's got a big history of that, and you start researching this and you realize that, well, there's nothing or very little written about Folsom gold mining. So you need to make it a little bit more general. And of course, when we typed in gold, we got, 130,000 topics. So just by playing around, typing in different key searches, you might type in one key search and then read through a bunch of articles, and then based on what you learn from that, you might revise your key search to kind of go off on a different trail. So part of this is just exploration. You have really no idea what you're going to write about. You could write about 1,000 different things, but you want to make sure before you send me your email and before you decide on writing your paper on a certain topic that you have a clear thesis and you are very confident that you can get the research papers to back up your paper. Because it's not an opinion paper. Your evidence is going to be the research papers that you read that have been published that are going to then support your thesis for your paper. This is a really good process. You might not have had any experience with this. It takes time, it takes practice, but if you can get good at this, it will help you greatly in your future studies in college. Much of the college, upper division college grades are based on your ability to write research papers, and this might be your first course that's required you to do that. But my hope is that through the process of writing these 3 research papers that you'll become much better technical writer. This first research paper is only 5% of your grade. So I'm hoping that the mistakes you make, you'll make them all on the first paper, and then your second paper will be much better. And then by the time we get to the 3rd research paper, that's 25% of your grade, and that will be a fantastic one. So I'm looking to see some great improvements. Also, I'm available during my office hours. If you want to come by and just talk to me about your topic, we can do some searches together. We can, if you want me to look at your rough draft and bring it in, you can do that. If you want to bring in your introductory paragraph and just email that to me and ask me what I think of it, I'll give you some suggestions and give you some comments there. So I'm here to help and support you and help you learn and get better at this whole process of writing research papers. So 2 things the next week, sometime, let's say by the end of this week, I guess that would be like the 14th or so, February 14th, around there. If you could send me your topic of your paper and your thesis, a very clear thesis, and then you'll be set to roll.